Today we start a series entitled Soundtrack of the Soul, and we've done this thing over the summer, over a few weeks in the summer at different points, 2 or 3 different times, I don't remember exactly how many, where we'll take a song of the culture basically and sort of have a chance to hear it and appreciate its role in the culture, its space in informing us about how the world is seen through the eyes, either whether it's our eyes, their eyes, our eyes combined. It's not a criticism of the music. It's never intended to be that. Art is art, and so we want to see Jesus where we can. We want to see the beauty and goodness of God's design in art and that. And so the songs are chosen with sort of that in mind. What is it saying to us as those kind of people who are seeking to be with Jesus, to become like Jesus, to do what Jesus did, to learn, to understand, to find the kingdom in the world around us, and participate in that, cause our own lives and the world around us to flourish, and how our culture is shaped in so many ways by the music. So we're going to be exploring some songs along the way, starting then today. And so let me take us to the first slide. So as we start today, I'm going to ask a favor. Would you, for a moment, close your eyes? Close your eyes. What's the song? The one you play when you're hurting? The one you dance to in your kitchen? What's the song that hits you in the chest every time you hear it? And now ask yourself, what is that song saying? Because whether we realize it or not, the song is forming you. Because it's not just lyrics, it's not just background noise, it's a medium that by design influences who you and I are becoming. You're welcome to open your eyes. Because as we've been saying for now several weeks, this whole series and even before that, you and I are always being formed. Everything about the world that we live in, and specifically some significant ways in particular that we talked about, we're always being formed into something. We're becoming a certain kind of person. And Jesus is far more concerned about the kind of person we're becoming than the kind of behavior that we have. Because if you can correct the heart, if you work on becoming a certain kind of person, the natural outflow of that is you become the kind of person. To become the kind of person who acts naturally like Jesus means if I focus on that from the inside out, my behavior will follow. That's how we're wired. It's how we all are formed, shaped, molded. In other words, as we've been saying around here for quite a while, let's put it this way. The question isn't if we're being formed, but by what? And so you need to understand, music is a spiritual formation tool. It bypasses the rational and goes straight to the soul. Dallas Willard wrote, we live at the mercy of our ideas. And many of those ideas, those thoughts, they come with a melody, don't they? Psychologists tell us that music regulates emotion. It shapes memory. It forms identity. It's that song that 3 notes in and you remember exactly what she was wearing the first time you asked her or him to dance. Neuroscience has shown us that music lights up the entire brain. Emotion, cognition, motor skills, all lit up. All engaged. Every fiber and fabric of our being. So that in mind, ask yourself, what ideas are being sung into your soul? So as we've done each time with the series, we'll, as I said, select a song. So let's go back to 1972, my preteen years. The Doobie Brothers released a song that would top the charts. This is before Michael McDonald, which I was grateful for the addition. And more after I saw this music video. One article said this song, written by lead singer Tom Johnson and released by the Doobie Brothers, was their first major hit and was inspired by a desire for world peace and unity. Not a bad motivation. It captured a longing for harmony during a time of social and political upheaval. Johnson imagined a scenario where world leaders could set aside their differences. The article says, in his words, if they either smoked enough dope or just sat down and listened to the music and forgot about all the other BS, the world would be a much better place. feels like the sentiment, as idealistic and simplistic as it may come across, resonates a bit even these days, doesn't it? So, here's the song. Enjoy. So first off, where can I get one of those outfits? I don't know if I should choose the red one, the lead singer one, which is pretty cool. What's that? The one with the feathers? That was the other option. the one with the white boa, the feathers, so nice. Second one is this. Ultimately, this caught my attention as well. Did you catch this guy? Did you notice him? What's up? What's up with this guy? I don't know if you can tell. No, it's not colored. So that's a little red, like police light on top of his helmet. I again don't know this. This is obviously before MTV and their sort of beginning of production for music videos. So I don't know if is he the background drummer? I didn't know there was such a thing as to get background singers. Is he some so one of the engineer's nephew? I don't know. Maybe he's part of the band. Seems to be. It just caught my attention. But to the real stuff. Did anybody feel the slightest urge to get up and dance or sing along? Maybe not like seriously, but in your bones you're like, oh, I feel like doing it. Yeah, for sure. It's catchy. It grooves. It moves us. Set in the middle of the political upheaval around a failing war in Vietnam, the hippie movement, a looming economic crisis, they state the obvious. What the people need is a way to make them smile. It ain't so hard to do if the music's good. And it worked. It still works. It was a moment of light when people needed to feel a sense of hope. something to make them smile, even if it was just a distraction. Well, clearly, the Doobie Brothers are neither philosophers nor theologians, but they might just be prophets. Because the song is crying out, there's something better. There's a sound that lifts the spirit. There's music that can help us smile again, which is always life-giving to the human spirit. And who doesn't want more of that? As I mentioned in these last weeks, we've talked a lot about how we change, how we're transformed, to use Paul's language in the New Testament, how we grow into the character of Jesus. And at the top of that list is the reality that the stories that we believe are the first layer in that journey. They determine significantly how we see and move about in the world around us. The stories that we grew up with, the stories that we took into our bones, have the most significant shape on us. And some of those are helpful, some of them are not. We've talked about that the last few weeks. But the first step in the process of change is examining those narratives that we hold to be true, so that we can replace the ones that are false, destructive, not helpful, with ones that are lying with what is real. And by real and reality, as if you've been here any time at all, you know that what we mean by that is that which never changes. The reality is that thing you run into when you're wrong. Whether that's physics, whether it's whatever dimension or aspect of the world and relationships, there's a way the world is designed to work. There's a way that you and I are biologically wired to work, emotionally designed to work, relationally wired to work. That God speaks into existence in Genesis 1 and 2 and calls it good, tov, meaning it's functioning just as I designed it to. It's all good, not just good morally. It's good in terms of it's fulfilling its intended purpose. That's what is real. It's what we're all wired to intuit, whether we choose to embrace that reality or not. So the objective is that we replace our destructive or false or unhelpful narratives with reality based on the teachings from the life and words of Jesus, as he shows us and points us to what it means to be fully human, the full design as it was intended to be, moving in the world in ways that is in perfect conformity with how God designed all of humanity to live. The picture of Imago Dei, the image of God. And so to some degree, the series is intending to sort of raise the question, what if our playlists are a form of teaching? A way of examining the narratives that we hold to be true about music, about the impact of music, beyond that, what the music is addressing. What if the songs that you and I sing along to from our favorite playlist actually are influencing and forming the deepest beliefs that we hold about God, about others, and ourselves? Paul reminds us how transformation is given birth, how it's set into motion, when he says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He's saying that's where it starts. Understanding that the mind is this sort of arena where our thoughts take shape from ideas, imagination, and then move into our body from that point on, and they bring with them they attach to emotions attach to them, they move into the physics of how we move and be in the world, and that's the natural process. But the beginning of it is essentially taking captive, as Paul says. What's in our minds? What are the ideas that Dallas says, again, sort of we're at the mercy of those ideas? Maybe the bigger question is this: what if music is part of that renewal? Or part of your conformity? I grew up, as most of you know, in a fairly conservative home, theologically, religiously, and so from the time that I was born. And so it was a home where secular music was generally frowned upon. Secular music was generally frowned upon. And so I can vividly remember, this is in the early 70s, mid-70s maybe, my older brother, who's a year older than me, he was the oldest, had bought, we lived in Argentina, my folks were missionaries, if you didn't know that, and so the Beatles were already there, of course. in terms of sort of their worlds capturing who they were. And so they had printed this anthology, this big book about them, including their music. And my brother saved up his allowance, I don't know over how many weeks, and went down to the music store and bought it. And so, all of us, friends and I, we were excited to look at that, because even in Argentina, in the remote parts of Argentina, we're hearing Beatles music on the radio. And my friends, who are only Spanish speakers, walking around singing, "Let it be, let it be." I don't know if they fully understood what it meant or not, but the music captivated them. And so my brother has this anthology somewhere along the lines. I don't know if my parents knew he was going to buy it. I seriously doubt that. But my mom found out, or it came to light that she had feelings about that. And so my brother was made to take this music anthology out to the backyard and put it on a burn pile and burn it. Truth is, he should have seen that one coming. Because, you can't trust those long-haired hippies from Liverpool. But actually, to turn this all around, I actually, maybe it wasn't on my brother's behalf, but I'm going to claim that it was. Got some payback from that. A few years back, when Paul McCartney came to town, the last time he was here at Busch Stadium, Shelley and I got a chance to go with our good friend Jamie to go hear him, and it was just a dream come true to be in the stadium with a legend, with an icon, and on top of all of that, to be able to sing "Hey Jude" with a whole crowd in the Busch Stadium was amazing. It was a great feeling. But you see, it gets tricky when you put things like music in rigid categories of good or evil. Because honestly, there's some shaky theology out there when it comes to life after this life in particular. It's in some of the hymns that maybe some of us grew up singing. I know I did. And those hymns have been significantly influential in shaping the theology of many church-going Christians from the early mid-20th century. And that's their design. I read somewhere years ago that for most Christians, that's where that grew up sort of with hymns in the church, that's where their theology comes from, more than what pastors say week in and week out, because of the power and the nature of music. You sing it often enough, you repeat it often enough, even if you don't understand or think through specifically what the lyrics are, you're internalizing them, which is a neutral thing. Can be good, can be bad, depending on what the lyrics are. It's the power of music. Hymns that have lyrics, though, like "This world is not my home, I'm just passing through." Maybe you've heard that one. Or I remember singing this when we were in ministry in Tyler, Texas, a few years before we moved here 30 years ago. And our church had a Southern Gospel Quartet, which from time to time I would sing along with if the tenor was going to be out. It wasn't my style before that, but I sort of enjoyed it coming along the way, singing "Beulah Land" and a number of others. One of the songs that came along that I heard often, long before I even sang with them, was "I'll Fly Away." Anybody familiar with "One Glad Morning"? Yeah. "When this life is over, I'll fly away." And hymns like "When the Roll is Called Up Yonder," "When We All Get to Heaven," they sound pious, they're certainly moving. And I'm not saying it's all, hear me well, I'm not throwing them out with the baby in the bathwater. I'm not saying it's all bad theology, but some of it is. Because you don't hear Jesus, for example, using that language, escape language, call it. "This world is not my home, I'm just a passing through." "Some glad morning, when this life is over, I'll fly away." Those are derived from a specific form of under the understanding of the gospel that is about ultimately someday this world is going to die, it's going to burn up, and we're going to end up, when we get to go to heaven, we'll get to be there with Jesus forever, and that's not biblical. When we die, yes, we'll be with Jesus, absolutely, if we put our faith in Jesus. But the end of our story, Revelation 21:22, is actually the recreation, the restoration of the world, and Jesus, God, moves back in to the neighborhood. He wants Genesis 1 and 2 redone, but now it's bigger, better, brighter. This world, it's a very physical relationship. Neighbor, God moves into the neighborhood, the message says. That's the end of our story, the restoration of Genesis 1 and 2. But that's a whole other sermon. Just indicating, while it's not sort of the end of it's not, the biggest deal in the world, that some of the theology in hymns is bad. It's just recognizing, because of the power of music, we tend to take it in and absorb it for what it is, and ultimately it's shown that not many of us, again, especially when it comes to theology, don't use our hymns to reflect on what we believe. It just forms us, shapes us. What we've talked about is unintentional formation. Jesus came to renew the earth, not to escape it. But those kind of songs, while much of it, what it says, points to Jesus' sacrifice on our behalf, which is a beautiful story. When the expectation is that someday we'll fly away, here's the problem. They tend to form people who disengage. Or worse, stop caring, even if it's unintentional. Because they don't give much thought to our Genesis mandate to care for the earth as God did, as God would, as he's delegated to us to do in Genesis 1 and 2. That part of the great story is easily overlooked, or worse, politicized. All that to say, the words we sing, the music we listen to regularly, shapes us. It's shaping us, regardless of its theology or the lack of it. There are songs that numb our emotions. There are songs that inflate our ego. There are songs that train us to ignore pain. But then you hear a song on the radio. But this one's not on Joy FM. And yet, it's real. It's honest. It cries out for justice, or grace, or healing. And something in you knows this is real. Shelley and I watched most of this past season's American Idol. We hadn't seen American Idol in a while. We turned it on somewhere in the beginning and found ourselves drawn to this one contestant in particular. His name was Jamal Roberts. He was a elementary PE teacher in Mississippi, 27 years old, two precious little girls. And sort of week after week, he just impressed us with not just his voice and his presentation and his performance. There was something about him that you could tell his life was exuding a story. And so we were just drawn to him. And so we watched it all the way to the end, hoping he's going to be the one that wins at the end. And a few weeks before it gets to the finale, by the way, he did win it. Before he gets to the finale, one night we're going to watch him perform, and he begins to sing this song called Heal by Tom Odell. And I'd heard that song years before, and it's on my playlist. And we listened to it. And again, he did his rendition, but it was so moving. And I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's because we've been drawn into a story, because we'd heard part of it. But more so because the gift he has from music allowed us to see this is his story lived out. And the song concludes, the band dies out, and he sings this sort of final phrase, and it just kind of hangs there, and it stops. And literally there's, 10 seconds, it felt like an eternity of just silence. And all of a sudden, like American Idol does, the lights goes bang, the lights come up, and everybody starts clapping. Because there was this moment, everybody was transfixed and was just moved to understanding there's something real and genuine, heartfelt, and I can connect to it in some way. On some level, maybe the way you might hear it is that just sounds like Jesus to me. Like it's true, like the story matters. And I believe that, and I want to trust that he'll find the healing, whatever his story is, or that he's finding it. It was a window to his story, his soul. And we couldn't hold back the tears because you have that sense. It just sounds like this is so real. It's like the kingdom is here, inviting healing, saying this matters. Because all in all, in the end, it's really not about genre. It's about formation. Regardless of the artist or style, it's about how is this song, this music forming me. And not to say that every song we listen to has to get sort of worked through the grid of that and, that you just can't enjoy listening to music. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying, overall, there's a principle to hold at least present in our minds. And perhaps ask ourselves this question: is this song helping me see and experience the kingdom? To live more like Jesus or less like I have been? To experience the kingdom that heals, as Jamal was singing about, that extends hope, that seeks to restore imagination, to restore the soul, that enables me to live more like Jesus. And that's the question. Because here's the thing: Jesus isn't trying to correct your theology, to rearrange your mental furniture about what's true, just in terms of just discussions of theology. It matters, sure. It's just not his highest priority. He's inviting us into a rhythm, a cadence, a song, you could say. When he tells us, again, come to me, all you who are weary. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me. The unforced rhythms of grace. And I will give you rest for your soul. Oops, left that part off the slide. For your soul, he says. You see, it's not just information, as we've been saying. It's formation. It's the slow, steady transformation of the soul. The soul is that outward container that sort of contains within it all that we are. From our mind, from our will, through the inside out. And so music is shaping all of us. And our soul is designed to point us, to move us, to help direct us to what is real. To understanding how to live as we were designed to live. It's the true north pointing us to the ways of the kingdom. Not religion per se, but the idea of living as God designed us to live. And when it's all in line, we find rest for our soul, regardless of the circumstances. I appreciate how Paul highlights the role of poetry and song on our journey of formation as he says this in Colossians: let the word of Christ live in you richly, flooding you with all wisdom. Apply the scriptures as you teach and instruct one another with the psalms and with festive praises and with prophetic songs. Interesting. Apply the scriptures as you teach, as you instruct one another. And he speaks of art forms, psalms, praises, prophetic songs. You see, there's music in the kingdom. Sometimes it's inside, and sometimes it's outside the walls of the church. And Jesus wants to offer his playlist and teach us the steps to the unforced rhythms, the groove of grace. You were made for joy. You were made to dance. I'd sometimes struggle believing that for myself. But you were made to listen for the lyrics, the stories that are in line with reality, the ones that resonate with what is life-giving, that are filled with hope, that keep pointing to love, the ultimate reality, the end goal of formation. Which is why Paul keeps coming back to it. In Philippians, he writes at the close of his letter, he says this: now listen, and now, brothers and sisters, as I close this letter, let me say this one more thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and good and right. Think about things that are pure and lovely, and dwell on the fine, good things in others. Think about all you can praise God for and be glad about. Do that. And God, who makes everything work together, will work you into his most excellent harmonies. I love that translation. So go ahead. Listen to the music all the time. But as you do, pay attention. Ask yourself, what is this song teaching me? Again, it doesn't have to be critical, just reflective. What kind of person is it shaping me to become? And perhaps as you do, you'll resist the temptation to divide music into hard and fast categories like Christian or not Christian. But instead ask, is it true? Is it in line with what is real? About how the world is as I see it, the way that I'm understanding it. Is it in line with what is real, or is it in line with the perception Is it in line with what happens when this thing falls apart and how I feel? Is it in line with what is real, what is true, what is good? Is it beautiful? Is it forming me into love? Soul formation. Let's let the Spirit tune our ears. Let's walk in the rhythm of the kingdom, because you were made for a better song. And Jesus is still singing it. And if we're listening, we'll hear it wherever it's coming from. Would you pray with me? Father, we thank you for the gift of music, for the way you wired us to be able to take that in, circumventing our tendency to be logical and rational, because we need sometimes rescuing from that. Music can move us from the inside out to make us smile, to remind us that we're made for joy, to remind us that there's, whether we're rhythmically challenged or not, that there's joy in the dance. The dance, at least as you've known it, with Son and Spirit, since before there was ever time. And you want us to find that experience based in the truth of how you made us, how you've wired the world, and how powerful it is to grow into who you've designed us to be, ultimately shaped and defined by love, because that's who you are. The writer John reminds us that you are love. So we thank you for this gift. May we keep it on our minds, Father, as we go about our day, giving you praise for all the places and ways, every genre where we can hear and see the reality of your kingdom, either offering hope or giving hope in the middle of it, bringing about a sense of belonging, bringing about all that can be true and good and beautiful. And may we cling to that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
There is good news for